Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gypsy Poet Radio here on blogtalkradio.com/Gypsy Poet. I am the Gypsy Poet, and with me is the funny and the sparkling girl, George, who will be joining us shortly. I want you to know that I'm excited to have, of course, Gary Serkin once again on the show. I'm very, very pleased to have him on the Gypsy Poet birthday weekend. I couldn't get enough of him, and I just love his stories, and we are here now. Gary, are you with us?
I'm with you. Happy birthday, Sophia.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about you, because we've been talking about stories surrounding you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I wanted to know the last time, where are you from originally?
Well, my parents were originally native Nashvillians, and my dad's side is from Florida, or most of them are in Florida. So, let's see. After they got married, they moved down to Miami in Coral Gables, and me and my brothers were all born down there. And,
amazing!
And it was in Miami when I guess I was around 6 years old. I saw my first two electric guitars for the first time. We'd gone over to a friend's house who had older brothers, and we went in their room, and on their beds was a cherry red Gibson SG and a cherry red Gibson 335, and those were the first two electric guitars I'd ever seen in my life. And I went home and I asked my mom if I could get a guitar. So on my 7th birthday, she took me to a music store on Miracle Mile, and they told me I wasn't big enough yet for a guitar, which was disappointing, but I got a ukulele for my 7th birthday, and I learned all my chords on that. And then we got the news that we were moving to Nashville. Now, I had visited Nashville when I was 5 years old, so I kind of had an idea of what we were getting into, though my older brothers were devastated. We lived in a tropical paradise pretty much, and but for me, you know, I was a big Johnny Cash fan, and I had the song Ring of Fire, and I'd play it over and over again. And I was also a fan of Chet Atkins, actually, at the time. And so we moved up here in June of '63. Actually, I flew up here first because I went to summer camp, and then my rest of my family got here, I guess, towards the end of June. Now, my uncle, my mom's brother, lived here, and his wife had a Stella guitar, and she let me play it. So once I got to Nashville, I actually started playing guitar a little bit, and although I was just kind of fiddling around with it, I really didn't know any chords or anything. But then for my 9th birthday, which was, I guess, about 3 weeks before President Kennedy was shot, November 2nd, '63, I got my Harmony Rocket for my 9th birthday. And that was a very exciting moment for me. And we found a teacher who was, oddly enough, this was after the Beatles. This was right after the Beatles came out, and we found a teacher from Liverpool, and it just happened to, answer an ad, and his name was Mike Bell. He went to school with George Harrison. He had all of the Gretsch guitars, every model. He had every model Gretsch known to man. He had the Chet Atkins, the Tennessean. He had them all, and he taught me some Beatles songs, and that's actually how I got started. It turned out he had told me that he came here to learn Chet Atkins style to go back to Liverpool to teach, which I thought was pretty interesting. But my uncle and aunt later moved across the street from Chet Atkins and were neighbors for 30 years. Well, I got to meet Chet Atkins before he died at the old RCA Studio A, which is where he did, where he recorded all the stuff. So I told him who I was, and I mentioned my uncle, and he said, yeah, he'd heard he was in bad health, and oddly enough, both Chet and my uncle passed away around the same time. But I always wanted to meet him, but I always wanted to ask him about Mike Bell. His full name was Michael Campbell Bell. And he says, oh, yeah, I remember Mike. Yeah, he used to follow. I said, well, did you give him lessons? He says, no, he was more like a bum. He used to follow me around. I remember he followed me to Knoxville one time. And anyway, I thought that was really interesting. I later found out that a family from Belle Meade, which is a very affluent neighborhood, met him in Liverpool and sponsored him. And he even lived down at the end of the same street that my uncle and Chet Atkins lived. But anyway,
did you know Bucky Wilkins? Did you know Bucky Wilkins?
No, I don't know him.
I would think he went to school with you or something, or maybe he's a little older than you.
I don't know him. But anyway, hey, Girl George.
Yeah, I'm here.
We all, other than Barney Evers, our bass player friend, we also have a mutual friend with Ron Hapkin, who produced all the Dr. Hook stuff.
Oh, he was our producer. We were on the road with Dr. Hook, so Ron was our producer. You know Shel Silverstein, too?
Right. No, I don't know Shel, but I saw him and Chet Atkins sitting in the Elliston Place soda shop one day, but I didn't talk to him. And
is that place still there? They have the best food in the whole world.
It's still there, and it's one of the oldest restaurants. It might be the oldest restaurant now in Nashville. But anyway,
it was really good. They had home style cooking, sort of soul food with greens and beans and meat and stuff like that.
Exactly. But
I still dream about going there and getting something to eat there.
But I met Ron through. Yeah, it's a great place. I met Ron through Pat Holt, who I don't know if you know him, but he engineered and mixed all the Dr. Hook stuff. And Ron.
No, I didn't know him.
Okay. Ron's.
I knew him when they were in San Francisco. See, they moved to Nashville after he wasn't our producer anymore. See, we were in Nashville, and Shel Silverstein seen us and got us as Dr. Hook, but they were in San Francisco at the time. And so we went to San Francisco, and then after we broke up with them and everything, they went to Nashville. So you probably met him then.
Mhm.
Well, I met Ron through Pat Holt at his studio, and Ron
in Nashville.
Yeah.
So that was afterwards. This was 73. We were with him, 1973.
Well, Pat started out at Woodland Studios, and they did all the Dr. Hook stuff at LSI. And but anyway, let's see. What was I met him at Pat's studio where I recorded some of the stuff that's going to be on my solo record, and Ron has told me a lot of stories about Mercury Records and Buddy Miles and Hendrix and the Cafe Wad. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed episode number 33 with him because I'd never heard the
He's
story.
got great stories. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, in fourth grade, I started a group. We did mostly British invasion stuff. We were called the Esquires, and we had Jeff Dorsey on drums and Bobby Sane on bass, who later, unfortunately, passed away. But we played the Woodmont Elementary talent show, and it wasn't a contest, but we played the show. And then in junior high school, I played our ninth grade banquet. I didn't go to the banquet. I played the banquet, which was kind of fun. And then in Hillsboro, when I went to high school, I met a guy, a black guy, Winston Franklin, and I taught him how to play guitar. And he got in a soul band, and I was kind of jealous because I wanted to be in a soul band. But after that, they played for a few years, but I took, from high school, I took a year off, and I worked at TGI Fridays, and I worked with Rodney Crowell, who married Roseanne Cash, Johnny Cash's daughter, and Rodney's an amazing songwriter, of course, and I did my very first demo with him at 18 years old at Cedarwood Studio on the Row. And then after that, I got a job at a club. I don't know if you remember this, Girl George. Do you remember Mother's Music Emporium?
No.
Okay.
No, I only know the Red Dog Saloon and the Exit Inn and the House. Remember the House?
No. But anyway, they opened this club, and it had a lot of national acts, rock acts.
Uh-huh.
And I got a job.
What year was that? What year was that?
73.
73. I was gone by 73. I left in 73,
okay,
so that was
that's
after.
why I remember that. Well, I got a job there first as a beer tender, and later I became stage manager. And a lot of really fantastic groups played there, and a group came in called The Image with Mike Panera, Dwayne Hitchings, and Donnie Blasberg on drums. Well, Mike played with Blues Image, which had the song Ride Captain Ride. I'm sure y'all have heard that. And he formed a group with Mitch Mitchell after Jimmy died, and they were called Ramatam, and they put out one record. They weren't real successful. And Dwayne Hitchings had recorded with Jimmy at the record plant keyboard. He was a keyboard player, and he played on a song called It's Too Bad that's been released. And he also played, he was also the original keyboard player for the Buddy Miles Express, and he also played with Cactus. Well, they had formed this group, and Mike invited me to sit in, and that was a big thrill for me. But after that, I moved to Memphis, and I was going to go to school there, but the course didn't have enough students, so I came back to Nashville. But while I was there, I got to see the Buddy Miles Express. They played at the Overton Park band shell, and then that was the first time I got to see Buddy Miles, which they were unbelievable. So I came back to Nashville, and I went to Belmont for a year. It was the first year of their music business program, and Dr. Malloy, who ran it, he gave me an A and said, you don't need this course. You already know this stuff, and which was kind of true, and because I used to read, liner notes on albums, and had a good idea of how the business worked and all that. But so I left there and I went to UT for a year, and then when I came back home, I got the news that my mom had cancer, and they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me when I was in school, and they waited till I came home. So I moved back home to help out around the house, and I went to work for my dad at his store. And I got a call from my friend Winston, who I taught how to play and who had been in that soul band, and they were forming a new group with this keyboard player, Harold League, and the three of us got together and we called it Function, and we got a bass player, Bill Baskerville, and our first drummer, Ray Arsenault. He played for a while, and then he went to work. He went to work at a music store, and he's still there, Corner Music, here in Nashville. And years later, I played with his brother in a blues band. But Ray left, and we got Bobby Sherrill on drums. Now, Bobby's older brother was Sweet Charles Sherrill, who played bass for James Brown. And we were playing this group. We were playing the Chitlin circuit, or what was left of it. Pretty much the same circuit that Jimmy and Billy played in the 60s, but we played the tail end of it. So we would play Fort Campbell a lot, and I always enjoyed that because that's where Jimmy and Billy met. And there were a couple of clubs where they used to play. There was the Top 6 Club and then the 1, 2, 3 Club. And I asked Billy if they played there, and he told me they did. And I always had a feeling that they did because I just had this thought the vibe. I felt like they had been there at one point, and sure enough, they were. So we were playing there a lot, and we also backed up Sweet Charles when he did his solo gigs when he was off the road with James Brown. And we also backed up these three singers called the Foxettes, who were named by Billy Cox. It was two black girls and a white girl, and we had a lot of fun with them, and it was a big variety show. And we had two lead singers in our band, GP and Charles Cooper, who they called the Alligator Man, because he had this little thing he would do. Part of the show, he would get on the floor and move around like an alligator, and I actually saw him do it a couple of times. But Charles ended up being one of our background singers when we formed the Billy Cox group. Of course, Billy gave him a new nickname. We called him the Coop Monster. But it was real nice to have Charles with us, you know. But the band for 3 years, or almost 3 years, we were busy every weekend, and we were getting paid well, and we were even starting to do a lot of session work. Bobby Bird, who worked with James Brown, he was using us on some sessions to back up people. And also Eddie Houston, who was a Capitol Records artist. He also did some stuff with us. And we also cut a 45, and I don't have a copy of it. I wish I did, but that was the first record that I ever played on. But anyway, sadly, one night we were playing in Fort Campbell, and the power went out, and we went home early, and I told the guys in the van on the way back, I said, I have a feeling my mom died. And when I got home, I walked in living room, and there was everybody in my family, and the door to my mom's bedroom was shut, and they said, Gary? And I said, yeah, I know. So me and my dad, we got an apartment together because we didn't want to stay there. And I continued to play with Function for a while, but the problem was the disco era came in, and a lot of the clubs we were playing started getting DJs and a mirror ball, and they weren't hiring live acts, and so I left the band. They continued on for a little while. They got a different keyboard player, but they broke up, and it was around that time when I mentioned I played with Freddie Hubbard at the Exit Inn, and that's when that happened.
Remember Barefoot Jerry we were talking about? It was Mac Gaden I was talking about that played with him, not Mac Davis.
And oddly enough, Billy Cox played bass for Mac Gaden's group called Skyboat, and I've got some awesome photos, color shots of them that I may send you a few of those.
Yeah, he wrote that famous song, Everlasting Love, has been covered by everyone in the whole world.
And, Jason wrote that song, and fantastic. Of course, Mac played on J.J. Cale's stuff, the Naturally album, and he was the one who first played a slide with a wah-wah pedal, and his joke is, he says, yeah, and Steve Miller took it all the way to the bank. But,
yeah, he's got a new book that just came out just recently. It was in the last few days.
Book. And he was inducted in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Cool.
And
wow.
I can't think of anyone who I know who deserves it more, and Mac is one of my heroes. And one day I walked into a music store, and there was Billy and Mac, and we had a ball that day. That's the only time the three of us have ever been together at the same time.
Did you know Billy Swan?
No, but I remember his song. I didn't know Billy Swan. So after that, my dad died as well about a year later after my mom. He had a heart attack, so I was kind of on my own at that point. I was 22, and I met a friend who opened a studio on Division Street, same street as the Red Dog Saloon was, and it was called the Castle Studio, and oddly enough, his dad worked for Jimi Hendrix Studio, Electric Lady, in New York, and he left, and I took over the studio for a couple of years, and it was during that time I met in '79 when I met Buddy Miles at the Exit Inn. And I was really hoping Billy Cox would be there, but unfortunately he wasn't there. But I got to meet Billy, and then after that I started playing, and that's when I did the stuff at Polyfox Studio, and we did the London Side of Nashville album, and I met African Dreamland and Billy and did all that. But
you did a thing with pedals, too, didn't you, with sound effects for guitars? Didn't you have something to do with working with them?
I've worked with a lot of pedal companies. Worked with Roger Mayer a little bit, Jimmy's Tech, who made the Octavia that you hear on the Band of Gypsy's album and the Purple Haze. I've worked with Dunlop Manufacturing, Crest Audio. I used to do demos at the NAMM show. I've worked with Dave Fox at Fox Rocks. Mostly research and development, and I'll test out stuff for them and things like that. But yeah, I did that. But I started after we did the London Side of Nashville record, and I started playing with some different cover bands, and that's where I found Jeff Roberts, who played drum, who was me and Billy's first drummer, the guy who was Wayne Moss's nephew. So I did that for about 3 years, up until Asheed called me to play on his first solo album, and then after I did that, that's when they called me up and asked me to join a band. Now another thing, we recorded a song called Apartheid with African Dreamland, which was a tribute to Nelson Mandela, and we made a video for it, and it was in light rotation on MTV, actually, and I just got a message today from the guy who filmed it, Lou Chinatri, that he found the master tape, and we're going to try to upload that to YouTube. Tie-Dye Mary dressed all the dancers with beautiful tie-dye, and it's a beautiful video, and in light of Nelson Mandela passing away, I think we should share this with the world, and it's one of my favorite sessions that I ever played on. So, but
you should put all your shit up on YouTube so people can see it.
I know. So
I have about 300 clips on YouTube. I've got 2 different channels. I got 250 clips on one, about 150 on the other.
I'm gonna work on that. But after that, I went to work for Gibson Guitars, and that's when I met Alan Woody, the bass player, and that was in '89. And I left, and then I went back for more punishment. And that was when I got the call to tech for the Allman Brothers, and they, my friend Troy Venable, he was Dickie Betts' tech, and he said they had a meeting, and they brought my name up, and Alan Woody remembered me, and they needed someone to tech for Greg Allman and Alan Woody. Greg's tech became the stage manager, Rich Kramer, and Troy was teching for Dickie, Warren, Haynes, and Alan Woody, and it was a lot, so they wanted to divide it up a little bit. So Troy called me first, and he said, if you're interested, I'll have Dickie call you. So Dickie called me the next night, and he said, well, he liked my background. He said, I've got one question. I hear you're a guitar player. Can you tech for us? I said, Dickie, for any other band, I'm not so sure. But for the Allman Brothers, count me in. And he said, that's exactly what I want to hear. I'll see you at rehearsal. So,
yeah, today's Greg Allman's birthday, huh?
No, happy birthday, Greg.
And yesterday was our Sophie, the Gypsy poet's birthday. I think her phone isn't working. I keep hearing clicking, but I don't hear her talking, so I think her phone is not working good.
I'm actually here.
Oh, you are here. I thought it wasn't working because I kept hearing clicking, but you weren't talking. Happy birthday,
no.
Sophie.
Oh, thank you, Girl Joy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just excited that I actually had the show this weekend. Gary, we could not get enough of you. My goodness, you have stories that could just go on, and I just love that. Yes, make sure you listen to Gary Serkin at the end of this program. Please check him out on Facebook and wherever else you can find Mr. Gary Serkin and the Gypsy Sun Experience. If you are an outcast, if you are a gypsy, then this is the guy for you. He rocks it and he rolls it. I absolutely love him. I loved him last week, and I love him this week. They can't get any better than that. Thank you so much. This is the Gypsy Boy saying adios for now.
Ciao.